Well, since my yard is not conducive to growing produce, no fruits and vegetables to preserve, I do have a lot of interesting things growing in my yard that I can preserve that won't just last for the winter, but should last for a lot of years. I'm going to start off with the thing that's most exciting to me, which is preserving boxwood, and I'll show you how to create the solution and how I made these little topiaries. You can also use it to make a garland or just stick it in a little container or a ball or a wreath. All kinds of fun things you can do with it. And after I show you that, I'm going to show you how I do hydrangeas. This is the perfect time of year. It's mid-August now, but it's the perfect time of year to cut some of the hydrangeas and let them dry naturally. And in my yard, liriope, interestingly enough, monkey grass, the flowers are coming out now, and they dry in very interesting little spires that are fun to use. So let's start off with the solution for creating the preserved boxwood. Now you need 3 ingredients. You need stem dye for fresh cut flowers. Absorbit is the brand in holiday green. I know it's kind of paprika colored, but it does turn green. I found this on Amazon. The next ingredient is Glycerin. This is a 6-ounce bottle. This one happened to come from Walmart. Look in the pharmacy section. You might ask the pharmacist or something like that. It's used for like a lotion or something. The last ingredient is citric acid. I could not find citric acid at my grocery store, but they sent me to the international market where I got Codex hydrated lime, which I substituted, and it seemed to work just fine. Or, I didn't even think about this in time, but Floralife, which is, I'm sure anytime you've gotten some cut flowers, you've gotten a little packet of this. This is citric acid, sugar, and a little bit of bleach, and that can be used also. So the way you make it is, you take a half a cup of warm water and dissolve a teaspoon of the Absorbit to give you the green. Then you take the 6 ounces of glycerin and stir that into 2 cups of warm, hot water just from the tap. You don't need to have a boiling or anything like that. Stir it in and you'll be able to tell quickly. If you can make Crystal Light or Jello, this is going to be super easy, much easier than that. So you just stir that in. And then you're going to add a half a teaspoon of citric acid or Codex hydrated lime or Floralife. And then you come back and you add your solution. Those are the directions I received. I don't know that the order is all that extremely particular, but that's the way you do it. Then you simply go out and cut your boxwood. They can be any length you want. If you want to make a garland, you may want to make them longer, but 4 to 6 inches, 8 inches, whatever you like. And you simply take it, the end, and smash it. And you can tell I've smashed that with a hammer to make sure it absorbs very nicely. And then I simply insert the end in the solution, make sure it's down in the solution, and I'm going to check this periodically just to make sure everything is in the solution. If one's not all the way in, it will turn brown and dry and you'll know it and you can just throw it away. It's not that big a deal. Anyway, that's how you make the solution. I think it's interesting to see what's going to happen. So I have put them in there and I have just used some tape to keep them upright because they could very well fall into the water, which is not terrible except for the fact that they're kind of messy when they come out because that green water sticks to them. Now, this is what a fresh one looks like, a fresh piece of boxwood looks like. here is what it looks like after 3 weeks in the solution. So you can see that the color has turned a little more of a bluish green if you've got really good look at that. And if it does not go all the way in the solution, that's what it looks like. Gee whiz, how did I know that? So that's what this one that I did not get all the way submersed got into it. So I'm going to put him in his container all the way down into the solution, and I can see that, you know, all the stems are down there. I can also tell if it starts to get a little bit low. And I've not had any problem with this, but this is going to stay for 3 weeks. And then this is what it's going to look like. And now, if you're going to go anywhere in public, I'd recommend from this point on that you wear some rubber gloves, because it takes a little while for the green to come off your hands. I've gotten pretty green hands and I've washed them, so it comes off, and it'll be off, you know, by tomorrow easily. But if you have to go somewhere this afternoon, you don't want to look like the Jolly Green Giant, do that. But you can see there's my smashed stem, very green, and there are my leaves. On the back, there's still a little bit of yellow, but of course the backs of the fresh ones are a little bit different color. And these happen to fall all the way into the water. And so you can see those actually are very green, but you can see how it's getting kind of all over me now. But that's the product that we're going for, and these are nice and soft. They feel like they're alive. I love using glycerin. Now, many of you might be asking, what about, can I do magnolia leaves? Last year, about this time, I did magnolia leaves in glycerin, and I love that. I'll put a link in the description to those videos of how I did that. It's just the glycerin and water. But I put some of the magnolia leaves in the same solution, and you can see picks up some of the green, but the whole leaf is not green. Didn't take as well as the boxwood, but if that's a look you want, then you can try some magnolia leaves. Here is one that did not pick up as much green. It's a little more brown, but it's a little bit different color than the one that's just done in the glycerin, which has more of a mahogany kind of a color to it. If you have a question about whether or not you can do magnolia leaves, yes, you can. Is it as effective? No, it's not. So the optimal is our little leaves with the boxwood. You can do a number of different things with it. You can take these and make a wreath, which is probably a super easy thing to do that you might want to do. Or you can get a round styrofoam ball, and you can make a little styrofoam ball, or you can make a tree. Now, I've started one over there, and I'm gonna get the second one there. And now that I've practiced a little bit, I'm gonna do that. Now, if you're saying, why should I go to so much trouble? Well, the reason you should go to so much trouble is these things are wicked expensive. I don't mean a little bit, I mean bad. Like a little tiny ball, 30 or 40 bucks. Something like a tree that size, when it's finished, that's going to be 70 or 80 bucks. And I've seen them on some sites for like $120. I've seen the wreaths for prices like that. So this is something that you can do. The biggest expense is the glycerin, and the Absorbit and the citric acid are something that you can invest in it and do it for the rest of your life. Or you can have a party and have all your friends over to do this. But do know, 3 weeks from beginning to end. So now, let's make a little tree. Since I decided to make a little tree, I just went to the craft store and bought the cone in the floral section. So There's my cone. And I think the best way to attach this, rather than shoving it in, I mean, that's, the first thought people are like, oh, well, you'll just cram it in. Doesn't really work. That's been my experience. So what I've done is I have made some little pins to put them in, little staples. And I'm using some wire that we just happen to have around the house. And I'm cutting off 1.5 inches, and I'm making them into my staple. And when I did that, I went, somebody could use paper clips for that too. But I've got a boatload of these. I'm going to need a whole bunch of these. So now all I'm going to do here is put them on with the staples. Okay, I could still use a little more tweaking. I think I'm going to use some more of the little staples to hold down the ones that are poking out a little bit. Still got a little bit of green in there from the styrofoam that you can see coming out, but that's starting to work for me. Now what I did at the top was I twisted some around. Some of the smaller, more supple ones I kind of twisted around and stapled them down, but anyway, that's getting there. I'll work on that a little bit more, perfecting it, put in a few little more deep inside there, and I'm pleased with that. I mean, I could have spent $300 getting 2 of those, and I did it for next to nothing. Okay, here it is, essentially finished. At the top, I have kind of twisted them around a little bit just to cover it up. I'm sure a professional would do a better job than I did, but my labor's pretty cheap. So there it is. And I happen to have a terracotta pot that works quite nicely. Fits on there quite nicely. And so there is the finished product. So I have one here, and I finished the second one. So now I have my 2 topiary trees. Okay, this is my hydrangea. This is a microphylla hydrangea that blooms on old wood. So cutting it is very tricky. You have to do it just right or you won't have any blooms next year. Last week we had Hurricane Debbie come through, and branches fell out of the tree onto my hydrangea and broke things off. And you can see right here, this guy is broken. So I'm going to cut him off. Now I don't want to cut way back here, or I won't get any blooms on this. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut. You can see these 2 leaves are pretty small. Here are my 2 small leaves, and I'm going to cut right here. Oh, there goes my flower. But you can see how broken it is. And these are starting to get a little crispy. I love the beautiful blue color, but this one is a little more in the sun, so I have some burning on some of the flowers, but these still look really pretty, and this is where they came from. Now, a lot of times I'll have some flopping too, so here's some flopping. This is a nice time to cut them too, and you can see 2 leaves right there. I'm going to cut here because I want blooms next year also. He's a little dirty. He fell in the dirt there. He's been lying in the dirt. And if I leave them on, that's what they'll look like, is that brown stuff. So the farther we go along in the season, if I wait until the fall, then I'm going to have ones that look crispy and brown like that, which is a pretty look also, but this is so pretty here. So I'll set those aside and I'll take those indoors. But wherever I see them, you can see, just fell off and broke them off. So that, if I see them lying down in the dirt, and you can see I've got a lot of them from this plant after Debbie that have flopped down here. So that's a good place to cut them. Now the next thing that's fun to cut is the Floralife. I have several different varieties of Floralife that start blooming now and then bloom a little bit later also. But these, interestingly enough, dry in a very interesting fashion. So I've got several of them that make really pretty little things in an arrangement, a little vertical spire. And I just go down, and I'm going to go down long because I want them to stick up in my arrangements. So there is my Liriope, and it will darken a little bit, but it'll still have that pretty purple color in an arrangement if I want to add that. Here's Kirby, snuck out also. But this is a great fun time of year to cut some hydrangeas. Do not cut back long stems if you have the microphylla hydrangea that only blooms on old wood. Check out the Liriope and give those boxwoods a little bit of a trim, save the greenery, and have some fun. Get creative, whether it's for Christmas decorating or just having it around all season long. Great fun things to have. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you have some fun creative time in your garden. See you next time.